So welcome to Promote, Profit, Publish. I'm really excited to have a very different guest on today that I just met at the Mass Media Mastermind. Don't get that look on your face like, oh, I'm very different.
Different.
He's different in the sense that we're going to talk about entrepreneurship a little bit today and sort of what you think it is and what it really is. So my guest is Jim Beach, and Jim has started businesses and taught entrepreneurship around the world. At the tender age of 25, he founded the American Computer Experience and grew the company with no capital infusion to $12 million in annual revenue to over 700 employees. They resided and operated in 39 states and 3 countries. That's pretty impressive. He's definitely a bootstrapper, you guys. That's what's going to make this a little bit different. Jim has taught entrepreneurship at Georgia State University for 9 years and is ranked #1 in the business school for 12 straight semesters. That might mean he's easy. I don't know. We're going to have to explore that. Jim's first book, The School of Startups, was published by McGraw-Hill in June of 2011 and went on to 9 of the bestsellers list. He's been featured in a UPS commercial, and CNN called him the Simon Cowell of small business. Ooh, he might be mean. Okay, we'll have to think about that. And corporations like Wells Fargo, Toshiba, UPS, and SunTrust have all hired him to be a speaker and consultant. And I'm really excited. Next week, I'm going to get to be a guest on his award-winning radio show that is nationally syndicated on 24 stations. So you're just like, so tell me, Jim, by the way, welcome.
Thank you.
Are you easy? Are you mean? Like, what does all this mean?
I was not easy by any stretch of the imagination. I was doing things that no one else was doing, starting a business every semester, real money, real things, real products. So I think that it was, it was also validated this way. The program went from 6 to 250 while I was there. So you don't do that just to get an easy A. We were doing some pretty cool things. I was the only professor that would take a new chair and go down to the lobby of the building and cut the chair open with a chainsaw during class to see if it had been built to my specifications or not. So Not everyone does that.
So you and I had let's explore that a little bit, what you did with that professorship, because you told me a pretty cool story about those companies you started every quarter. And you did this like every time you started a new class. You did it right along with them.
Yes. Well, not right along with them. They did it right along with me. So the bet was I had 3.5 months to start a profitable company, repay all the startup capital, get cash flow positive, and they got to choose the country and the industry that I would start the business in. And so the very first semester, they chose Pakistan and furniture. So I had 3 months to build a profitable Pakistani furniture company. And if you go to my LinkedIn profile, and I'd love to connect with all of you, scroll to the bottom almost of the companies that I've worked with, and you will see pictures of the chairs there. And Juliet, you were the one who said that they were ugly, as I remember.
They're awful.
They are $3,000 chairs that the market validated. So
I'm stunned. Honestly, you should have paid me $3,000 to take them off your hands. No, it's not that they're not ugly. It's just that they're not my taste. How's that?
They are very Colorado ski lodge-esque.
A lot of people would find that really nice. I thought they were more like desert ruggish, because a lot of them were made out of rugs, weren't they?
Santa Fe, they would look great in Adobe architecture, anything like that. Yeah, they were 100-year-old Persian rugs that were then cut up and used as the fabric on a new chair. And so it would be a traditional American size shape chair, a Queen Elizabeth type chair, not Queen Elizabeth, Queen Victoria type chair, or a George Washington armchair with the high back, that would come out on the sides like this. And it was an incredible look. It was just a very busy fabric, which is probably what you didn't like. It looked like a Oriental rug made into a chair, which is what it was. So the rug was 100 years old, gorgeous, very subtle, very soft fabric. It had been walked on for 100 years. It would look great next to a dry stack stone fireplace and a brown distressed leather sofa at 6,000 altitude, with snow outside. So it was designed for that market, not
Awesome.
for you, Juliet.
I'm so hurt. I'm not that market. So you can tell Jim's also an interior designer. That's really cool. So it was projects like that you did every single quarter, and you had to make them profitable by the end of the quarter.
That's right.
That's incredible. So what I love about that, or when you told me the story, what I loved about it is so many of our college classes today are theory, and you actually put that all into practice right in front of their eyes.
I don't know any theory. I don't know the academic stuff, and so I didn't teach that. I think that's why the class was so well received.
Yeah,
So.
That's very good. So the average person jumps into entrepreneurship and they think that it looks like Shark Tank. What does it really look like?
Well, even on Shark Tank, I think it looks very stereotypical. We've come up with the pattern that you have to fit. And if the pattern doesn't fit the mold, the media probably changes the business and gives us the pattern, whether we want it or not. I think 99% of Americans would say that entrepreneurship has a risk component to it, that it's risky. You're putting it all on the line. The house is double mortgaged, living in the car. That story sells really well. How many times have we heard that Tyler Perry wrote his first movie from his car, right? There's a creativity component to it. It's new, it's creative, it's innovative, it's shocking, it's something that hasn't been done before. And that's certainly part of the story. And there's a passion component. Steve Jobs' Stanford graduation speech is one of the most Googled YouTubes out there, where he's talking about how important passion is and how that should be part of the formula. And so I think that those three things are systematically baked into it. And I think that is one of the big problems. So what I'm trying to say, my thesis is very simple, that creativity has nothing to do with entrepreneurship, that 93% of businesses are copies of other people's businesses. And I can almost always show that. You find me a business and I can probably find someone who is doing it before you. We love to think of Zuckerberg and Facebook as being new, but there were several social media platforms that failed before that, MySpace and all of that, right? There was nothing that innovative, or let me rephrase, there was nothing creative about Facebook. It was perhaps innovative, and that's a huge distinction. I don't really care about creativity, but I love me a good innovation. So if you can do it 2% better, that's probably going to make a difference. So here's my favorite example of that. The first business I started, the one that ended up with 700 employees, my competition was at Clar Crest Resort in Connecticut, which looks exactly like the movie Dirty Dancing. You remember the resort that Dirty Dancing was at? Now add 30 years of abandonment, and that's what it looked like. That's my competition. I, on the other hand, was held at Stanford and MIT, in Georgetown and UCLA and Sorbonne and Cambridge and Oxford. Where do you want to send your kid? Stanford or Clar Crest Resort in Connecticut? So there's an innovation. Same thing, just different resort, different place.
That's so interesting. But the creative, a lot of people will come into a business and say they are creative. And are they necessarily the people who can run a business? So I think what I'm trying to say is there are those people who are innovative and they're idea people, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they can run a business.
Those have nothing to do with each other.
Okay.
No,
Which,
one is fantastic for an arts and crafts booth selling wonderful paintings made out of the bottom of Coca-Cola bottles, and the other one makes businesses happen and concerned about cash flow and whether employees are going to get paid on Friday, and whether trademarks are legal and stuff like that. Those are totally separate skill sets.
no, I completely agree, which is why so many solopreneurs, I think, fail because they're good at the thing they do, but not so much at the business end of it.
Exactly right. Yes.
Yeah. I don't know that you know her, but my friend Catherine Bell has a program called Do the Numbers. And she actually teaches solopreneurs how to look at their numbers. And it's astonishing how much denial there is inside of a lot of businesses about their numbers.
If the numbers are ugly, they're not fun to look at, So I've been there, done that. Yes.
So when it comes to creativity, there's definitely that upside. I mean, you talked about the innovation, but what's the risk of that?
Yeah. So let's talk about risk. Risk is bad. Risk involves, people dying and getting hurt and run over by motorcycles and things like that. And so I think risk is something that we should try to avoid as much as possible. And when you talk to entrepreneurs who've done it 10, 20, 30 times, you find out that they almost always reduce risk, or they wouldn't have started the business in the first place. So I do everything I can to reduce risk, get customers signed up beforehand, get partners to pay, create partnerships with companies that would reduce my cost, give away equity to a co-founder if they write the website for me, bring in other people's money, use your money instead of my money. There's all sorts of ways that we can reduce risk and get it down to the point where I have a very, very simple rule. And it's interesting where you and I met, Juliet. We met at Disney, and my rule is Disney based. I'm willing to gamble as much on a new business as I would spend on 1 week of vacation with my family at Disney, which is about $1,000 a day. So I'm willing to gamble $5,000 to $7,000 to see if I can get a business to start. There's my risk rule. Now, the argument you always hear is, well, my business is different. My industry, where I am, that's going to require a lot more money. So, what I want to do, and then you hear, whatever. And the question is, does that extra money that you're spending create extra revenue? So let me tell you the story of Joey Tatum. Joey was broke, had $5,000, and he wanted to become a bar and restaurateur. And he was getting old. He was 35 and said, I better start now or it's never going to happen. So he opened a bar with $5,000. Well, imagine what a dump dive that would be. And to this day, that bar still has the linoleum floor, the exposed cinder block walls. It used to be a barbershop, and the big circles on the ground where the chair used to be are still there. He spent most of the money renovating the bathroom. And the first weekend, he couldn't afford a keg in the deposit. So he just bought 6-packs. And anyone who bought a beer, he gave them an individual can of beer. He made enough money to stay open until the second weekend. And the second weekend, he made enough money to stay open until the third weekend. And now, 21 years later, he owns 5 bars and restaurants in that little college town. He started with $5,000, and now he has everything. A guy came in 5 or 6 years later across the street and spent $3 million building one of those gorgeous things with the brewing equipment and all that brass stuff and everything. $3 million. So the question is very simple, Juliet. How many beers do you have to sell to recoup your $5,000 investment? How many beers do you have to recoup your $3 million investment? So risk is great for you, but I'm going to do every single thing I can to reduce it. And therefore, my chances of succeeding, of winning that bet during the semester go up dramatically. I only have to sell 2 chairs to win the bet.
Who did you sell those to? No, I'm just kidding.
Well, here's the the guy I wrote the book with, so my co-author was David Beasley. He is a Bloomberg reporter. He does a lot of ghostwriting. He was ghostwriting a book for an Atlanta-based CEO, and I can't tell you what company he was, but I'll give you a hint.
I can't.
Atlanta-based company
Coca-Cola
was writing the biography of that person. And he was sitting he was invited to the CEO's house, and the CEO had a favorite chair where he always sat. Guess whose chair it was, Juliet? I think you owe me an apology. You owe me an apology.
I'm so sorry. You should send me a free chair just to give it a try. There you go. So, passion. Everybody talks about passion. I have clients all the time, or potential clients, who tell me they're passionate about something. Does passion necessarily translate into a business?
Well, I'm passionate about a lot of stuff too. Today is my 10th wedding anniversary, 100% real. So we got married 10 years ago today, and I'm passionate about that. And I'm a horrible, horrible Christian, but I would like to say I'm a little bit passionate about religion, but I'm a bad Christian, I'll be honest, but I got me a tiny bit of passion for religion. And I got me those 4 kids, and I'm super passionate about them. I love me some kids. And I love taking my kids to Disney, and I love woodworking. I'm a woodworker. I could show you right outside the door right there some things that I built. I haven't listed anything that's related to work yet, right? However, I am very passionate about my lifestyle. So I get to do what I want, when I want, where I want, wearing what I want. My commute is 12 feet. I get to go to soccer practice. I get to go to ballet practice. If I want to work all night, I work all night. If I want to play all day by going to ballet practice with my 4-year-old daughter, I do. And so that lifestyle is absolutely perfect. Everyone is jealous of my lifestyle. My male friends who have those JOB things are always very jealous of me. And so I'm passionate about the freedom, the lifestyle, the opportunity. I will buy and sell anything that's mostly legal and kind of moral if I can make money doing it. I have sold lots of stuff that I don't like, a lot of products that we don't use, we have sold. That still, I still get up anxious to go to work. I still get up anxious to go sell that stuff, because the more stuff I sell, the more woodworking classes that I get to go and attend. And I've heard, apparently there's a word for people that are really, really, really passionate about stuff. There's a word for that. I keep forgetting it. Materialism. Materialistic, I think, might be the word. It's a big word. You might want to check me on that. But I think that word has a negative connotation and denotation. And that's what you're passionate about. Stuff.
Yeah.
Purses. I've sold purses. I've sold leather jackets. I've sold lots of stuff that I don't care about. But it allows me to do what I do care about, which is go to soccer practice. And so as soon as this is over, I'm going to soccer practice with my 8-year-old boy. Why limit yourself to what you're passionate about? If I could only do what I'm passionate about, I would be making really crappy furniture for a living.
In general, or just
I'm not good
crappy?
at it. I'm just not good at woodworking. I love it, but I'm not good at it.
Uh-huh.
And so, I do what I can do well, and that allows me to do more woodworking classes. If I start a business that I like and it's successful, I can go to Disney more. The more successful I am, the more freedom I have, which is the ultimate goal in the first place. I don't really care if I sell 12,000 widgets. I just want 12,000 units of personal freedom.
That's awesome. And it's a good point. Back when I sold real estate, I wasn't crazy about it, but I could do the same things. I could pick my kids up from school. I could take them to school. I could do all those things that people with jobs can't. So I get it.
So can I finish up my thought, Julia? And finish?
Absolutely.
Can I wrap all of these 3 up real fast? So if we take all of that entrepreneurship doesn't have to be creative. You can go copy, borrow, or steal someone else's idea, read Inc. magazine and do what someone in Denver is doing. Just do it differently, a little bit better, right? You see their model. Do it a little different. Don't steal anyone's copyrights, trademarks, or patents, but copying is pretty normal in the entrepreneurial world. Again, 93% of businesses are copies of existing businesses. From the London School of Economics, the data comes. And one of my favorite things about entrepreneurs, I know that if I were to call 5 entrepreneurs and say, hey, I saw you on YouTube and what you're doing is really cool, and I'm thinking of starting a business, and I'll be honest with you, it's sort of competitive, but I live 2,000 miles away from you, and I'd love for you to tell me about your business, and I'm just really impressed with what you're doing. Will you tell me what you're doing? I believe 95% of entrepreneurs will talk your ear off, and you'll have to shut them up. And they'll tell you everything, and then you just do it 1% better, and you're off and running. So again, creativity is awesome, but let's throw it out. That means now that I'm not limited to my new ideas. I don't sit around and wait for God to throw a creativity lightning bolt at me. I'm going to open up a magazine and copy. And I'm not going to spend a whole bunch of money, which means I don't use this delay argument anymore. Ooh, I can't start a business right now. My boys are about to go off to college, and now's not a good time for me financially. Instead of saying that, you're just not going to go on vacation this summer. And I don't care what you're passionate about. When you remove these 3 lies, these 3 myths, now anyone can be an entrepreneur, because your reason to sit on the sofa, I just destroyed. Your reason for inactivity, I just eliminated. Your reason for inertia, I just smashed underneath a rock. Your remote control, I just threw it away.
I love that. I love that. The other thing is too, is I'm more than willing as an entrepreneur to tell people what I do, because chances are you could replicate it. You could do exactly the same thing, but if you're not me, it's not going to come across the same way. It's also the personality behind it, I think, to a certain extent. So
100% agree.
You're teaching all of these high-level people entrepreneurship. What do you think that one piece is that's most important?
The most important piece of entrepreneurship? Keeping your eye on cash flow is certainly super critical, and something that I'm obsessed with since I've gotten into cash flow issues before. Had me some cash flow problems there, Juliet. Like $8 million of problems,
okay, I was going to say, who hasn't had those, but I've never had $8 million. I feel for you.
By 27, I was $8 million in personal debt. And I just want to point out that takes a lot of skill, that the average person could not, in just those 5 short years, accumulate $8 million in debt. It takes a certain skill to accomplish that. I just wanted to point that out.
Okay. Oh, great. I agree. That's almost like the person who says they have a credit score of 400. That took some work.
My credit score is worse than that. At one point, I walked away from, get ready for this, from 24 car leases simultaneously.
Oh my God. Wow.
Apparently, they don't like that.
Who knew? So what did you learn from that?
Monitor your cash flow? I thought that was your original question, Julia.
Well, I just don't know. Like, what's the important conclusion from that?
Monitor your cash flow. Pay attention to cash. Cash is king. Yes, that sort of thing. So, I am, as you said, obsessed with bootstrapping and obsessed with figuring out a model that makes sense on the cheapest dollar. And sometimes it might take longer. It might not be as good, but I'm willing to take those sacrifices if I can get it up cheaper and reduce the risk. I have gotten the letter from the bank that says you and your pregnant wife need to move out of that house and leave all the stuff. Oh, no. I've gotten that letter. And when you get that letter, it's it's not fun to go and tell your pregnant wife that you're moving out of the house, you know? And so I don't want that anymore.
Was that your first wife or your current wife?
My first one.
Oh, okay. Just establishing why you may not have her anymore.
Yes. Well, that had nothing to do with that. So,
okay. This is only a 40-minute show. We can't get into that today. Maybe another time.
The second wife is the wife I got caught stealing from.
What? Okay, we have to get into that. What's that all about?
Yeah. So I wanted to fund a business. And so I went to her and said, hey, can I have some money to fund a business? And she said, no. So I went behind her back and took $100,000 out of our life insurance without telling her, and didn't tell her for 6 months. And then she found out without me being honest and telling her. And then the entire investment went to zero. And then I built a tree house. And it's right out that window right there. If you want me to turn the camera around, you can see it doesn't quite have a roof yet, but I'm still sleeping there, Juliet.
Nice. Well, at least you're in Georgia, so the weather's warm, right?
Well, it's pretty cold now. It's getting cold. Anyway, yeah, I got caught stealing $100,000 from my wife. She forgave me. Again, it is our 10th anniversary today. So.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's a story. I bet there aren't many people out there who can say that. So
it's not good, by the way. That's a bad boy story. Are we clear on that?
Yeah,
was that clear? Did I paint it right? Or do we need to? You're not supposed to put your head on the microphone. It makes a weird noise, Julia.
I know. I almost wish I had like music here where I could play the song from Bad Boys. What you gonna do? So you had an MBA experiment that you did in your class. What was that?
Well, that was the bets that we've been talking about. So the bet, for the chairs, the leather, the beef, all of that. That was what I did in my MBA class.
And what other products did you do besides you do something in India? Was one of your projects in India?
Nurses.
That was very vague. Nurses. What did you do with the nurses?
Exported them
to
places where they have nursing shortages.
Oh, that was an actual business.
Yeah, but it gets really close to human trafficking, so I don't really want to.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking like to Thailand. No.
Just teasing. We gave their passports back eventually.
Oh, okay.
After 12 years.
What's that called? A pimp? No.
I've done a lot of stuff in India. I have taught at IIT Mumbai every year. IIT Mumbai is the most difficult university in the world to get into. It's the #1 university in India, and I've been honored to go there for the last 8 years, every January, February to teach. So I've enjoyed that. And I also work with an Indian organization here in Atlanta called TIE, T-I-E, which stands for the Indus Entrepreneur. And it's the Thai sort of chamber of commerce all around the world. They have a chapter in almost every big city of the world. And I work with that organization extensively. Particularly, I help coach their high school business plan competition team. And I just want to say this, in the last 5 years, we've come in twice. We've come in first place twice and third place twice. And then 1 year we didn't come in the top 3. But in 5 years, to be number one, number three, and not so good, that's better than any other city. So we're knocking it there.
That's very good. But it does beg, there's a question here about, can you teach people entrepreneurship? My son just graduated from business school 9 months ago. And when I talk to him, I feel like he knows nothing about business.
That's not nice.
Like, what the heck did I spend all that money for?
Yeah. I do believe that you can teach some basics of entrepreneurship, the cash management and the creativity and a whole bunch of stuff. The question is, can you teach the personality traits that sort of are required, I think, to be an entrepreneur? For example, the wherewithal to laugh off 99 rejections and finally only sell the 100th person that you ask out. So that's why I was such a good entrepreneur, Juliet, because in my teens I asked hundreds of girls out and never got a date until I was 27. So I had decades of no's. And so that was what led to my strong entrepreneurial personality, very persistent. And, 1,000 no's don't discourage me at all.
So wait a minute, but when you were 27, you were $8 million in debt. Like,
yeah, I was wrong there. I was already married with a kid by that
oh,
point.
okay. I was going to say you were not really dateable for most pretentious women.
Well, yes. So I don't really like the pretentious woman. I have a rule there that I'd like to offer up. Can I offer up some pretentious women rules?
Yes.
First of all, if your Starbucks order is more than 5 words, you are undateable.
I agree.
Second,
even if you go to Starbucks.
Yeah. And secondly, if your profession ends in ESS, you are also undateable.
ESS.
Hostess, waitress, actress, stewardess.
Princess.
Well, I did date a princess, and that was, totally separate story.
Wait, a real one?
No, I'm making that up, Julia.
Oh, okay.
Come on.
I don't know that. I could see you seeking one out, like, in India or something.
No. I'm very happily married now. Today's my 10th anniversary. Did I tell you that?
Oh, yeah, like 5 times.
I'm happy.
Well, good. I'm glad you're happy. So what's the role in all this of multiple income streams?
Ooh, love me some multiple income streams. So I made a bet. Have I told you about my bet?
I don't know.
I made a bet with my wife. I bet my wife something, that she could start a business in one semester. So I gave, this is romantic. This will tell you how romantic
Wait a minute. Was she one of your students?
Who, my wife?
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Oops, don't listen.
Yeah, oops. But we knew each other long. So this is real. Our daddies went to medical school together in the 50s. So the families had known each other for 65 years. And she was not an 18-year-old student. She was a student in her late 20s getting her MBA.
Okay.
And so, she was already a homeowner, and, she was 29.
Okay.
And so it was moral-ish.
Okay.
She wasn't my student at the time. We dated after she was my student.
Oh, okay. Just now that you're clarifying, like she didn't get an A because...
She got an A.
Oh, okay.
It still does.
Oh, good for her. Okay, back to multiple income streams.
So I gave her a book for Christmas on how to start a business. And it was not a random generic book. It was how to start an Amazon sales business, a very, very particular business. It's one of the systems that you may hear advertised on TV, radio. And you know what? Some of those systems actually work. I'm a huge Amazon sales proponent. I think it's an amazing business. It has zero creativity, almost zero risk, and you can be passionless about it. And so she started on December 26th with $500. She made $56,000 in the first year. So that is an awesome new income stream. So she's got one of those JOB things, but now on the weekends, she does Amazon. Ooh, can I tell you about one of our products?
Sure.
This is secret. You have to lean in because
Okay.
I don't want to tell everybody.
Okay.
And so again, remember, I told you we sell a lot of stuff we don't personally use or like.
Yeah, that's a likely story.
Gluten-free, 100% organic sex lube.
Wow.
You want some?
I'm so shocked. I don't even know what to say.
Just think about it. Sex lube ends up in the mouth.
Okay.
You don't necessarily want that gluten in your mouth,
No.
For all of the vegan sex. Vegans have sex too, I think. Don't they? Can't vegans have sex?
They can. I don't know when I see them if you necessarily want to.
Okay.
But you do have to keep into consideration that you have to swallow that. So.
And so the gluten organic stuff, non-GMO also, non-GMO gluten. And so anyway, Juliet, you get me off on the weirdest tangents. So anyway, she does that still. And we have a very successful Amazon business. We come home some days and there's 50 boxes outside of our door of product that we have just purchased. We flip the product, send it off to the Amazon warehouse. You buy it and you think you bought it from Amazon when in fact you bought it from people just like my wife. So we did that system. I have multiple streams of income. I do speaking, I do the radio thing. I'm of course a forehead model, and all of these different things, different income streams that you didn't know that?
Now that I look at the eyebrows, I can totally see it. Yeah, I got it. I don't even know what to say after that.
I don't either.
Thank
so
God.
Anyway, yeah, we have multiple income streams. Yes.
I feel bad for the people who don't have video right now.
Oh, they have to watch this in video, don't they?
Yeah, it's over on YouTube, guys.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, Juliet's got her top halfway off now, so.
That's it. My cashmere turtleneck sweater, because it's darn cold here. So when you have these multiple income streams, one thing that I hear people say all the time is, oh, I've increased my spending because now I have my JOB and my income stream. When should they do it all the time? They tell me that all the time.
They've increased their what?
They've increased their spending.
What do you mean?
Because they've got all this money coming in and they're not budgeting, they're not putting it away, they're spending it. So when do you know when to stop that and quit your job and just live off what you're making from your income streams?
Or when you get fired. So this is important, and I'm glad we have time to discuss this because this is really important. Jill, do you smoke cigarettes?
Oh, no.
Oh, you have to. You got to start.
No.
So all of the entrepreneurs who go through my systems, we all smoke cigarettes. That's very, very important. When you get fired, you can stop. But until you get fired from your job, because you smoke cigarettes, you get to take a break every hour and go outside and smoke a cigarette, right?
Uh-huh.
And while you're doing that on the phone, in your other hand, you're doing business.
Okay.
Until your boss figures out that you're really using his time to do business.
Okay.
And he fires you because you're distracted to the point where it's actually starting to bother your job, right? And so I'm being a little facetious and I'm being a little serious too. You want to do your part-time work until it gets to the point where, ooh, gosh, boss, I got to take tomorrow off. I'm not going on vacation. I got to work tomorrow, but I'm taking the day off. I'm sorry. When that happens 8 times, you're ready to quit.
8 times. Okay. So keep track of that, people. All right. Thank you. 4 plus 4. Put it on the forehead. It'd be like an extra. There you go. All right. So tell me about the co-authors on your book.
David Beasley, I already told you about. He's a Bloomberg reporter, great writer. Has written several other books as well, including the bio on that CEO guy. Chris Hanks has been the head of several of the significant prestigious entrepreneurship departments. He was head of the UGA, University of Georgia Bulldogs entrepreneurship department, and also Kennesaw State, which is Georgia's largest university now. It's exploding in size and popularity, and has been a longtime entrepreneur himself. We've been speaking together for, 15 or 20 years now. Great guy, great entrepreneur.
That's awesome. So I know after this X-rated podcast that people are going to want to reach out to you and find out more about the lube. Yeah. Probably. Yeah. Where do we find you? How do we get a hold of you? Xhamster or youporn.com.
There's a whole gluten-free lube section there, apparently.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, really.
Is this what you anticipated, Juliet?
It wasn't, but it was a lot of fun. You were so quiet sitting next to me at this event. I am sort of shocked by this.
Would you rather I be quiet on your podcast too?
Absolutely not. This is a lot of fun. I'm waiting for my podcast people to come back and say we had to edit some pieces out, but I don't think they'll have to. We didn't cuss.
I will.
Oh, that's okay. That's when they get really mad when somebody drops an F-bomb and they're like,
no, I don't like that word.
Well, don't have them on again.
No, I don't like that word. I don't
Okay.
like
So
that
where
word.
do we find you? How do we listen to you on the radio? School for Startups Radio. You have a book out. Everybody should.
Schoolforstartupsradio.com is a good place. Jim Beach is a good place. LinkedIn, Jim Beach is a good place. Those are all good.
Okay. And I
Yeah.
want to encourage you guys, like when he says reach out, he really means it. He is super generous with his knowledge. And even though he makes ugly chairs, he has a lot of knowledge.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for being on.
We had fun at that event, didn't we?
You know what? That was one of the best events I've ever been to. I do really well in those small, intimate type of places. I don't like big events. I don't like the big events anymore where people walk around saying they're seven-figure entrepreneurs and then they don't have the money to pick up lunch. I'm kind of done with those.
Suze said I was really mean. Suzanne said I was really mean.
Really?
Uh-huh. You said I was quiet. She said I was mean.
Well,
Especially to poor Merrill or Merrill about his horrible trademark, his horrible name.
Hey, you know what though? Here's the deal. I think that was one of the good parts of being there is that you got an honest opinion. Nobody was a yes man. Nobody was just going to tell you what you did was great. If it wasn't, I think we got a lot of really great information out of it, and I think Merrill got a lot of good feedback out of it. I really think
I hope so.
did out of all of it. I know I got a lot of really good feedback for what I did. So it's always appreciative when you're amongst friends who will tell you the truth, whether you want to hear it or not. So, and that's how
apparently I'm losing my hair. One of my friends told me that.
Yeah, they might be right. Did you not want to hear that? But if you had hair, you wouldn't be a good forehead model.
I guess.
You have to be grateful and look at it from a place.
I used to be an eyebrow model before, though, so I would have stuck with that. I would have just stayed because eyebrow models get paid a lot more, and there's a lot less sexual harassment in the eyebrow space than in the forehead space. So,
really?
Yeah, it's one of those little known secrets.
Wow, I just learned so much here today. Thank you so much.
What I'm here for.